Good evening, welcome to The Spotlight. My name is Levi Kones. Very glad that you could join us on this Monday evening. And tonight we want to talk to somebody who is a mentor, he's an author, he's a motivational speaker. He is in the business of shaping young people's lives. I'm introducing you to Alfred Arita, who's here with us today. Very glad to have you here.
Thank you, Levi.
Yes, before we even talk about your books, how would you describe yourself? Who is Alfred Arita?
First, I want to say I'm grateful that you were able to invite me back again to the Spotlight. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that our viewers will be able to get some inspiration out of this little interview that we'll have.
Yes.
And that's why I'm happy. I thank God for you. So, Alfred is a motivational speaker. I have done many things in my life. I am a missionary pastor. I've worked as a missionary for over 10 years. I've planted churches out of Nairobi, in northern Kenya, in the Rift Valley, in Kapsabet. I'm also an entrepreneur. And besides that, I'm also an author of books, of motivational books, that are inspiring and impacting people out there. So that's what I would say about myself.
Right. You're married, a father?
Yes, besides that, I'm married. I'm a father of two. I have a beautiful daughter called Janita Amani. I have a son called Caleb Baraka. My wife, she's Rose. We live here in the city.
You live here in the city?
Yeah.
You know, they say many motivational speakers, the power behind the motivation is a story. What is yours? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? How was life like? What brought you to this point where you're writing books?
You know, I will not be able to say everything about myself,
Yes.
but I grew up in Nyamira County in a family of 5 boys and 1 girl. My father was a primary school teacher who used to teach back in the village. And where I grew up, I used to observe the way life was happening. And I never got inspired. I used to see people drinking around us. I used to see people crying, missing meals, you know, living in a very horrible conditions. People you know, working on the farms but having nothing to show for it. I used to see my mom work on our little farm every single day throughout the year, but always crying, no money, and I didn't like it. So I used to tell myself one day I would want to change this story. I didn't love a lot of things that were happening in my home, and especially the young people who used to drink, who used to do things that I would imagine, is this all life would give? No. So growing up, going to school, I went to school again when else, and went to secondary school. After Form 4, I failed. That's where my story began, which was a shock because I was always one of the top students. I failed. I got a C.
Why do you think that happened?
I think a lot of reasons. Because number one, in my Form 1, I went to a school called Sawagongo High School in Siaya. I was the top student from our school, primary school. I went to Siaya, which was a provincial school then. And of course, the expectation was very high that this is a university guy. But in Form 2, towards Form 3, I became very sick. Siaya, I think I didn't quite settle down in Siaya.
Yeah.
And so my father thought, let me take him back to the village. He took me back to Nyamira. And I joined a day school, known as the Siaga Secondary School, for a term, while he was looking for a school that I would be able to go and you know, complete my studies. So I went through 3 schools. In Form 3, I transferred again to another school. So I think I would say that moment of moving from one school to another also affected me because settling down, before you settle, you're moving to another school. At some point, I almost felt demoralized about it. And then, don't forget, there were not many people who were role models those years to look at and say, I want to be like so-and-so.
So lack of a mentor.
So lack of mentors, lack of encouragers, so to speak. And that's how I ended up getting a C. And I felt very bad for a long time.
So was it a big deal for your father as well?
No, it was. It was a shock because I was always the guy. You know, I was always in my family one of the guys who go to university.
And
so
the expectations were high.
Was very high. And so when I found I failed, my father always promises, if you fail, you go look for a job for yourself. So I left home, 1997, and went to vent for myself. I went to Kisii Town, began doing some very fun jobs. I've worked as a house help, and I've worked as a shoe shiner. I used to make 70 bob every day.
Shining shoes.
Believe you me, 70 bob years. I used to sit on a stone, and guys would come and I would shine their shoes. Give me it used to be 10 shillings. So I know how to shine shoes, by the way. And by the end of the day, I would make 70 bob. My lunch used to be about 10 shillings. But I used to feel this is not it. This is not where I belong. So I thought I would go look for money to take myself to college, but it never happened. So out of frustrations,
Yes.
I got myself into bad company in Kisii town. Guys who taught me how to drink, who taught me how to do all manner of things I never knew I would do as I was growing up.
Right.
But in the process of trying to find myself, I began challenging myself and saying, I think I was born for something better. Let me take you a little bit back. When I was growing up,
Yes.
I was the guy who used to give hope in our family. When my brothers would come home and say, today we have no food, we are hungry, I'm the one who say, guys, it shall be well. One day we shall have food. I was the encourager of the family. I was the cheerleader of the family. So I used to ask myself, is this what I was born to be? I used to feel a conviction right within me that I was born for something better. I used to feel like, though I'm shining shoes, I don't belong here. So I quit. Then I got a job as a pool attendant. You know pool? This thing.
The pool.
It was
Yeah.
the first one in
Fancy
Kisii town.
snooker.
Yes, yeah, they did that thing. And I used to play that thing. So, which made me now work in a bar, because you used to call it, it was...
They used to go together, by the way.
Yeah, it was called pool bar somewhere
Yes.
in Kisii town. And we used to play that thing all night. And that's how I stopped now going home. I began living my life right there in town. But again, while I was there, asking myself, is this all my parents really wanted to see from me? Though I had a see. One day, someone came and told me, young man, when you open for us this thing, you are very sharp. You always read the newspaper. You love reading books. You always updated, you know stuff. You don't belong here. I said, what do you mean? You don't belong here. This thing is for, people of jobs who are coming. It used to be a lot of police people, teachers who are of jobs. You are busy opening for them these games, and you have nothing. You need to think about yourself. I remember one day my father came to that place he was told that, my father was told that your son is somewhere in Kisii, with a big stick, trying to throw a small ball. It's true.
That was the only description.
Yeah. He didn't know what it was. So he
Yes.
came and he saw me. And when he saw me, I also saw him. He told me, this is what you have chosen to do for your life. And that convicted me so deeply, I decided to go back home.
He was hurt.
It was very hard. By then, I'd done very funny jobs. I'd worked I'd worked for a rich man taking care of his animals, 100 cows. But I did not do that job for a long time because it was so hectic. It was dehumanizing. I used to be abused. I used to be given food and nasfria, and I felt no. So I got back. I remember they never really gave me fair. I walked back.
So like the prodigal son.
Yes, I went back
You
to
went back home.
Kisii, and I said, no,
Yes.
I have a home. I'll go back home. I went back home, 1999, early. I went back home and said I'll settle down. I'll go to church. I don't know, for some reason I met some guys who were witnessing and evangelizing at our home, and God bless those guys. They followed me and said, Alfred, we always knew you were a sharp guy, you are a good guy. You should not be living like this. You should not be living like everyone around us. And that really brought some conviction. And that's why I decided to go to church. I went to church, prayed for, decided to give my life now to serving God, 1999. And my story changed from then. Now, when I joined Bible school towards the end of 1999, I did not spend so much time in church. It was January for...
Why Bible school? What made you want to
Now,
go to Bible school?
what made me go to Bible school, after beginning to interact with the Bible and reading the Bible, I began getting so excited about the Bible. Things I never knew. I began getting to know promises I never knew. Nobody told me. My father, my mom were not Christians, so to speak. We used to be churchgoers, so no one taught us the Word of God. So when I began reading it for myself, I began learning that God has good plans for you. I began understanding that we can do all things through Christ. I began understanding promises that I never knew before, for that God had a plan for us before we were formed in our mother's wombs, And I used to read my Bible. Let me tell you, and this may sound like a joke, I read the Bible in less than 3 months. I'd finished through, from Genesis to Revelation. I loved reading. My mom used to ask me, "Utaki kulala?" And I would tell my mom, I want to read, I'm loving this thing. And being a reader I am, I loved to read that book, and I said, I want to study more about it. So my pastor said, the way you love reading the Bible, and I became the leader of the youth in our church. And I used to preach to them as if I had known God for many years because of reading the Bible. So the pastor said, you cannot stay here. I think you can go and learn more. And that's how he recommended me to Bible school. I went to Bible school for 3 years, from 1999 to 2003. I graduated. I was among the top students who graduated there. And while there now, God began opening doors for me to speak in many schools from 1999. I used to go speak in Kakamega, speak in Busia, speak around, my Bible school was in Kisumu, speak in Kisumu. Schools would call me, go to Nyangori, boys there, speak there. Go to Kisumu, boys, go speak. But of course now it was a lot of preaching and sharing God's word. But people can tell me, you have something more than this. You have something more than just pastoral. When you speak, we feel you. We feel like you put this energy in us, you know? Yeah. And even some guys we were with in Bible school will tell you, they used to tell me, Arita, you are different. I don't think you are a kind of guy who just finish and just go to an assembly and just be there. And I began reading books. While at Bible school, I used to read all manner of books in the library. I think I'm one of the guys who read almost all the books that were inspirational. I had a hunger for books. And that is the time I met this man called Dr. Miles Munro. I read his book. I read his book about understanding your potential, 1999. And it blew my mind out. This guy is the guy who made me believe that the grave is full of guys who should have done so much, but they never did it. The grave is full of books that were never written. The grave is full of songs that were never sung. The grave is full of business ideas and proposals that were never executed. The grave is full of people who had great ideas, but they were afraid to begin it. So I promised myself, I will never die with an idea. And one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to be the mentor to the young people. Though me, I missed a mentor. I felt I need to share my experiences, because now you see by then I had gained an experience of working for people. I'd done some very fun things that got myself into.
You call it the school of life.
The school of life, really. Yes. And that's how my speaking began, back in 1999. And of course, getting new opportunities. I would go to speak in one church, a pastor tells me, I know a school, go and speak here. I would go and speak in a school, someone tells me to do another. And that's how I've been able to go in all these places that I have been able to, because people would be able to see something that I was having. I never knew that I had it. But over time now I began understanding and now polishing.
So you were a missionary pastor?
Yes.
For some years?
That's much later. After Bible school, I served briefly as an assistant pastor, and then came back to Nairobi. Then went to the next Bible school. So I did a higher national diploma in a college called Carlisle School of Theology. That's where I did. It's along Jogoo Road. Very beautiful college there. And I was a member of Sitam Buruburu that time. Yes. And I used to serve at the missions department, you know, preaching the gospel, going all over the place, talking to schools around, primary schools. You go for those you know, how do you go, the pastoral programs. Yes. And then after I finished, I applied for an internship, and I was taken at NPC Valley Road under Bishop Ogin, and I was our senior pastor then. I was so lucky to meet, actually that's not where I got shaped, because now I met people, intelligent guys there, people who knew God, people who saw something in me, and they told me, you are in places. So they began mentoring me. I was given an office there, sat under, I never preached, I sat under a whole year under Bishop Ogin there. I would see that man, the way he speaks, I say, I want to do this. I want to speak like this. He would invite people to come from the US, from all over the place, come to speak to us in conventions. And I said, I think I want to widen my scope from just being within the church. I would want to speak out there. Yeah. And indeed, it happened. I began getting opportunities to speak in banks, speak in universities, speak in colleges, speak in non-government organizations, and things like that. Now, the rest, as they say, is history. Today, I travel everywhere. Yeah, that rest, which is history. We're going to pause on that note, so that when we come back, we pick up from there. We're speaking to Alfred Arita, motivational speaker, author. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away. Thank you.